I was scrolling through YouTube recently and came across a short that discussed accent reduction classes being offered at Stanford. If you're not familiar, Stanford is a private university in California, and it is widely considered to be one of the most prestigious universities in the US and around the world. Some of the top employers that hire out of Stanford include companies like Google, Apple, Meta, and Microsoft. And this was confirmed in the Shorts video. She said many students in her class work in tech.
After 7 years of living in the US, I finally decided to go and study. And because we live 10 minutes away from Stanford, I decided that I'm gonna go to Stanford. Let me show you how much it costs and what the course is about. This is our building, this is our class. Students mostly work in tech industry. The course is called Accent Reduction for Non-Native English Speakers. By the way, a professor told us that the term accent reduction is now officially politically incorrect and you should say pronunciation modification. Ha ha ha. The course includes 5 classes like this one, costs $420. And by the way, if you love studying like me, they have a lot of other courses at Stanford open to everyone. It's called Stanford Continuing Studies. Don't forget to subscribe.
The thought of an accent reduction class here in the US is very, very odd to me, to say the least. Not only does it deteriorate one of the key pillars the US was built on, but it also leans into cultural erosion. First and foremost, the US is marketed and famous for being a melting pot of cultures. An accent reduction class is erasing part of you. She said this class was specifically accent reduction for non-native English speakers, but if this is the case, why is Stanford making an effort to erase something like an accent, especially now as we are really growing to appreciate and welcome different ideas, different perspectives, all types of diversity, and making sure that those voices and those experiences are included in our day-to-day life. Another thought I had about this was if the teacher had an accent and if this professor's accent was being taught as a neutral, non-accented voice. Everyone has an accent, even where we say, oh, you don't sound like you have too much of an accent. Everyone has an accent. Even within the US, there are various different dialects and accents. For example, someone with a Southern drawl will have an audible accent compared to someone who lives in a big city like New York or DC, or even somewhere like the Midwest, so somewhere like Washington State or Colorado. If you're living in the South and everyone in the South has the same Southern accent, everyone has the same accent that you're surrounding yourself with, it can be tricky to identify that those people have an accent. But as they move into other parts of the US, so if a person with a Southern drawl goes up to New York, for example, everyone in New York will be able to hear that dialect, hear that accent.
Where you boys from in the world?
Alabama, sir.
You twins?
No, we are not relations, sir.
Now, if we are making a calculated effort to suppress accents, why is this class being limited only to non-English speakers? Plenty of English speakers, including those who I've just talked about, who are native speakers, have different accents than other native speakers. Not only does this happen in the US, this happens across the world. For example, A British or an Irish person is an English speaker, but they don't have the same accent, the same sound, the same tonality as an American English speaker. Even further analyzing that, though, what classifies as a quote unquote English speaker? American English and British English are very different forms of English, but both are English. So, is this class only for non-native American English speakers? I Googled the course, and here is the course offering through Stanford Continuing Studies. This course is designed for individuals who are already proficient in English but would benefit from the reduction of their foreign accent. Who would benefit from the reduction of their foreign accent? If we as a society are attempting to push towards a culture that promotes diversity and inclusion, how is this course helping us to achieve that? On the contrary, this course seems to be making us less diverse and doesn't seem very inclusive because it is training people with accents to get rid of them, to get rid of a part of themselves that makes them unique. Upon reading this blurb about the course, I found it focuses solely on American English. If people, again, are in the spirit of embracing diversity and embracing individuality, why are we going through classes to rid ourselves of something that adds to diversity and uniqueness? Now, I don't know any job here in the US that would benefit from someone not having a non-American accent. The only thing that comes to mind, and this is a stretch, but this is the only thing, is maybe someone like an Indian telemarketer who says his name is Bob and he's calling on behalf of your Amazon account because he is trying to change your password. But even with that, to what extent is it worth it to sacrifice who you are and something so integral to what makes you you as your voice or your accent for the sake of your job or your career? I also think it's interesting how companies are quick to announce, promote, and advertise DEI initiatives, so diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. But people from companies like Meta are the ones who are attending this accent reduction class. According to Apple, which is also a very popular employer of students in this class, we belong together and deserve inclusion that reflects the world around us. Apple, is this accent reduction class something that you're using to better reflect the world around you since you're based in California? The university is less than half an hour from your corporate headquarters, so yeah, the English being taught in this class would indeed reflect the world around you. It reflects your little corner of the world, but this class does not in any way reflect the world if we are trying actively to rid ourselves of pieces of the world that make us unique. And we bring those to our workplaces, to the US, to everywhere that we go in our life. But they're being brought to this class to be diminished. Something else I think is very telling is oftentimes we hear a number of negative things about living in the States or being an American. Not only do we hear those things here in the US, but we also hear some not nice stereotypes from other countries around the world. If we have a social reputation for being dumb or silly or insert any of the negative global reputations we have here, why would people come from other languages with the hopes of sounding like an American after this class is complete? For me, hearing someone's accent when they speak to me is something I get very excited about. Firstly, because it makes me feel like the person on the other side of the conversation is a bit smarter or more intellectual than I am, and that always excites me and has me interested. And secondly, because it has great potential to open up a conversation about the other languages they speak or their culture and where they came from. These types of conversations don't necessarily happen as easily for me when I'm talking with people who don't have a strong audible accent, but I'm always interested in learning more when I come into contact with someone who does have one. So for me, it feels like a conversation starter is being silenced slowly but surely, not only as we go through this class, but we might also see that as the individual spends more time here in the US or whatever country they are living in at the time, especially as they do things like pick up slang. If you're worried about your accent or self-conscious about how you sound when you speak in American English versus how you sound when you speak in your native tongue, don't be. Your accent is beautiful, and odds are most people would probably be intrigued with your accent. Do you know how many girls go crazy over a guy with an accent? And and call me crazy, but this woman in the original video doesn't have an accent that hinders the listener's understanding or comprehension of what she is trying to say. If anyone is about to come at me with, oh, maybe this class is intended for people whose English is not good and they don't have anyone to practice with, this woman admitted to going into this class and her English is fine. Her communication skills in this language are fine. These are the types of people that are going into this class. But please share your thoughts with me in the comments below. Maybe I'm crazy, or maybe I'm in the wrong, or maybe I'm just missing something and I'm not getting it. Either way, I would love to hear what you think and your opinion on accent reduction classes. Would you take one for over $400? Am I being too harsh on them? Let me know. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.